All right. So of course, this book focuses on Ating, the protagonist of the story, right? And he's clearly somebody who maybe he's a who is beyond millennial. I think he's the Gen X era, right? Now I want to talk about the Gen Zs. These are the 18 years old to 25 years old. Do you see any trends, interesting trends on attitudes towards personal finances among the Gen Zs, as compared to the boomers, as compared to Gen X and the millennials? Do such cultural factors like born in the dragon year, these are, some people would think these are very obiang stuff that only the older generation would subscribe to. But do these cultural factors still continue to influence our decision making among the young?
Yeah, so I think, look, things change. In the current generation, what is important is not the superstition beliefs, but the fintech industry that has revolutionized that. I mean, I carry a wallet. I'm still an old guy, but the new generation, they have no wallets. They have their wallets electronically.
E-wallet.
And their wallets are e-wallets. Their wallets are on their phone. They are connected to every wallet, every app, and hardly carry a credit card or cash. Now, those are huge implications on society, on the role of cash, on the role of credit cards, and how companies operate or small businesses operate. So this is something we were very interested in. And we looked at when DBS launched their PayLah. How did that impact businesses? How did that impact consumers? And how did that impact bank behavior? So few facts that came out, like banks realized that they don't need to have these ATM machines as many out there because the demand for cash has gone down. People don't need to carry cash. Small businesses realize that they don't need to worry about siphoning off, there's leakage. When you're dealing with cash, some cash leaks out. Even between a husband and wife who are running a hawker center, maybe the husband just pockets $100 without telling the wife, and he just goes to buy some beer and other things, and that shows up as a loss to the business. Now with with e-wallets and paying through directly to a bank account, that money, there is no leakage. Okay, so that's good for the businesses, these wallets. And if you think about it, even the consumer benefits, because going to an ATM machine, withdrawing money, holding on to that cash in your wallet for days or months at end is not very convenient, or it actually may not be even financially savvy, because you could be earning interest on that money, or you could be doing something else with that money. So now we've realized that having these e-wallets is really actually beneficial for society at large, including consumers, small businesses, and also banks.
Now that spurred a thought in me. We used to be able to feel money. We can hear the clanking of the coins. We can physically and physically see and feel our money going out of our wallet. We hand somebody something with. I mean, to the viewers, in economics, money is a medium or a symbol of labor. The more you work, the more money, the more value you generate. The more value you generate, the more money you get. And seeing this money go away is like we are laboring. We're seeing our labor leave for something. We're trading our labor for something else, right? And me as a millennial, I kind of sit in between two eras. One is the cash era, and then the other one is the digital banking era. For the Gen Zs, they grew up almost right off the bat, already in the digital banking era. They don't have the privilege of seeing money leave, right, their hands. Does that?
Let me give you a term that is used: the pain of paying. Marketing people use this. Yes, when you pay by cash, you see this money leaving your wallet or your hands. You feel the pain.
Yeah.
Like my son, who's 2.5, he has no idea of pain of paying because he thinks everything is paid through a iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay. So he will never have that pain of paying that I have when my $100 bill leaves my wallet. And lots of studies, including something we have done, we have shown that when you remove the pain of paying and you don't pay with cash, but you pay through wallets, e-wallets, your spending actually goes up by 5 to 6%. You end up spending more because you don't realize that pain anymore.
Another example on this issue, this is a question of what we call a saliency. I think what Sumit pointed out is very real kind of problem, because you look at ERP, electronic route pricing. I'm not sure whether you still remember this. Before ERP is built, actually we had to go and buy this label at the route side, and then before you enter into CBD. I think a lot of people will just wait at the route side and wait for the time to up before you enter the ERP. Now with the ERP, the gadget, people don't really remember how much you spend. You just go through the inventory, the money you deduct from your cash, the net deduction.
Yep.
So I think this is the issue. They make it very convenient. People don't really feel the pain when you spend it. Last time when you need to buy a label, you rather wait for another 15 minutes or 20 minutes at the roadside before you enter into the CBD. But now you cannot even do it anymore. You have to go through entry. Even 1 minute, you still have to pay $1, $1.50. Do you plan your route ahead? That's another question. If you know that the ERP rate is going to be revised upward, do you change your usual kind of commuting route, or do you you do your shopping inside shopping mall inside the ERP zone, or do you prefer to do your shopping outside? All these actually have impact. I think it did find that it's not just impact on people behavior, it does impact on the rental and also the prices of the commercial building as well. If your shopping mall is inside the ERP or outside the ERP, how these changes have some impact. People are actually quite rational in the sense. So I think especially Gen Z, they're born in what you call the new age era. You are born with social media. You are so comfortable using e-wallet and all this. I think their behavior are quite different.
Right, convenience is double-edged sword, right? Sometimes convenience brings savings, but like what Professor Sumit just said, that convenience also resulted in increase in spending 5 to 6%. You say. Now, Prof Singh, just now you mentioned something that made me that gave me a question. Do people who live near malls actually spend more?
Well,
it's a tough question to answer because malls are not randomly put in a city. They are designed to put either where people work or where places people live. So the right thought experiment that you have in mind would be, can we randomly put malls and then see people who live near the mall spend more?
Right.
So another way to think of your question would be, if we look at people spending during the months where actually there is a huge promotion in Singapore to go out and spend, during the months of June, July, August, or do people in Singapore drive to Malaysia, JB, to do their shopping? And are people who are living closer to JB, do they shop more in JB and save money? And you see both Singaporeans during the Great Singapore Sale and Singaporeans who can afford to go to JB, they tend to buy more goods during the Great Singapore Sale or from JB, trying to save money.
I think to add to Sumit's question, I think this is very, not just proximity. I think with e-commerce, it actually make it more complicated. You do need to actually go to the physical store to do your shopping. And as and when, do people actually wait for 7/7, 11/11, all these sales before you do your shopping, or do you really buy the stuff immediately, or do you wait? I think the information is actually quite easily available, and then it's also very convenient with this e-commerce. So it's no longer just physical store alone. I think the e-commerce also changed the shopping behavior quite significantly.
That's true.
Grab food, for instance, right? Which is now so popular. You don't really need to go to the restaurant, right? Just order, there's a convenience there. But do people think through, like how much they should spend to justify the delivery costs that they have to pay? And because it's invisible, right? They may make wrong decisions, So just randomly for some small food purchase, and they're willing to buy. through virtually, right? And yet incur on a in percentage terms a very high markup because of distribution.
Guilty as charged.
You think,
Sorry,
I think that's where
Yep.
financial education, right, is all the more important. And that's where we come in, right, for Kiasunomics, to educate people, at least make them more aware of these pitfalls that they fall into without realizing, right, that they were incurring unnecessarily, or what they should do in order to justify the extra costs that they're going to incur.
Right. So I was saying, my laziness yesterday cost me $4.30 more for dinner because I decided to order in from Grab, and I willingly gave Grab $4.30 more of my money. But it's a price to pay, right? So a question for all three, right? You may answer in your specific area of specialty. How much of being kiasu, just now, this podcast is titled is being kiasu bad for our finances, right? Is it bad for our life, for our living quality? How much of being kiasu in finance is too much? Do you have any advice on how we can plan our finances? Maybe we can start with Professor Sumit first.
I mean, look, it is context specific, time specific, and situation specific. Like if you are looking to go putting your children to school and trying to be within one square kilometer radius, the trade-off is you're going to pay higher for housing, but your child may end up being in the best school and they benefit a lot. So being kiasu there may be a good thing. Being kiasu to say, I want to save money and drive to JB or buy everything during the Great Singapore Sale might also be a good thing financially. Okay. But there could be other instances by saying, look, I need to be kiasu to actually own an apartment that is 8.8 or having a car that is 888 may be bad because it's a depreciating asset like a car, and having that license plate may not be worth it because you really don't benefit anything. There is no superstitions don't come true in this situation. So it's very context specific. But look, we are not trying to say that you should not be kiasu because it's financially bad. We are mere academics who do studies to show facts based on data. Then people can make their own decisions. I mean, I can imagine people drive huge amounts of utility, what Tien mentioned about conspicuous consumption, that I don't care if I am actually going to make money by buying a 888 car, but at least my friends know that I drive that car. Okay. So I drive utility, I drive pleasure from it, and that may be worth it already.
So you're saying that whether is it worth it being kiasu or not, sometimes it's very subjective. If you enjoy it, sure. If you save money and you are okay to sleep if you can sleep at night making that spending, sure, by all means go ahead. That's what you're saying. Right. How about Professor Singh, in your expertise in real estate, in that view, how much of being kiasu is too much, or how much is
Actually,
okay?
well, I mean, Kiasunomics being competitive, fears of losing out. I don't think it's anything wrong. Like Sumit mentioned, if you actually competitive, trying to find out information, trying to actually optimize your utility, I think this is something good because you want to find something which is suitable and fit your own utility, and you can maximize your utility. However, I'm not advocating about fears of missing out, because not like reason people are rushing to buy houses because the prices is going up, and people think this is called herd instinct. If you just follow the herd, then it may not be something good, because I think it's always important to act rationally, not irrationally. So you have to you have to make your decision based on your head, not based on your heart, because sometimes it could be quite impulsive. It's just based on your heart and you follow your surrounding. People are actually chasing for prices, you also jump in. But I think at the end of the day, it's always important to make sure that all this consumption of financial decision, make sure it's actually within your means, is actually don't overstretch your financially as well as that's very important.
Now, Professor Ang, as a stalwart in marketing, right? Any advice, right, as to how can you use kiasu to your being kiasu to your advantage? Because as I mean, every marketer will tell you that the strategy always involves in convincing people to make certain spending. How can we protect ourselves using the power of kiasu?
I would say being kiasu is a good thing in some sense or in most senses, because it gives you, it means you're hungry and you're fighting for it, right? Because you want to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine if everyone is not kiasu, that we are so laid back? Think about our nation, right? The loss of hunger is the beginning of downfall, right? So having that hunger there, to me, is a positive thing. The balance then, as a marketer, between investment and consumption, right? So certain things you're willing to part your money on because it's purely for consumption and you derive utility out of that. And for some quality of life, some satisfaction, which you cannot measure perfectly in monetary terms. And yet for the other bucket of consumption, you want to have that, right? When you make the right decisions to fuel your consumption, right? Investment decisions to satisfy your consumption needs. I would echo what Tien said. Being kiasu does not necessarily mean you're irrational. Okay, you can really be making very rational decisions because you are so on top of things and you think through real carefully.
Mm-hmm. Right. I have one last question for the three professors, right? Give me your top recommendations for everyday Singaporeans, right? I think all the viewers right now would be very interested to hear from you, from your research, from your expertise. Top 5 recommendations everyday Singaporeans can use to make a better financial decision, or a decision that involves their finances.
That's a tough question. Look, I think...
So happy I managed to ask the tough questions to you three.
So I think overall, my guidance would be that spend less and save for retirement. My worry is we are going to live longer. We will have better health care, and we will need more of our finances in the later part of our lives when we can also enjoy them. And I think a lot of people tend to be myopic or having present bias where they want to consume or enjoy life today. So think about saving for the future. Hence, you can enjoy the life when it's truly meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah, I want that brings me that gives me the thought that, which is in many years ago, right, where people used to have more children, and of course life expectancy is not that long yet, so I think in your later years you tend to be supported by more children. But nowadays our life expectancy, I think statistically is about 85 for males, 87 for females. In those years, and then our replacement rate in Singapore is currently 1.6, was it? So
yep.
most old couples would be supported by two children. Last time you'd be like in your 60s when you can still walk, but you're supported by 5, 6, 7 children. So yeah, that really, I mean, your advice to spend less or spend smarter now and save up for your retirement because we're going to live longer and be supported by fewer children, right? That's so important. That's a very good reminder. Now, for Professor Singh, in your expertise as a real estate in real estate, right, what is your top recommendation for Singaporeans?
Okay, on housing purchase, maybe I'll just give this 5 advice. I think it's very important. Don't overconsume, don't overstretch financially. Buy within your means. The second thing is also buy and upgrade sequentially. Follow your life cycle, because you don't need to buy straight away, to the bigger house and the most expensive house. Upfront, you can actually upgrade sequentially based on your income, your saving, and so on. I think the other thing important, I mentioned just now, fears of missing out. Don't follow the instinct. Follow your head, what your head is thinking. And then the fourth thing is actually be prudent, especially financially, because I think interest rate is rising. So be careful and plan ahead, because it's not just looking at the purchase today. You have to plan next 20 years, whether you have enough cash to make your financial need, mortgage payment, and so on. I think the last thing I think is very important. I always have to be cautious about this. Buyers is prices go up, may come down. So everything go up, may come down as well. So don't everything that thing will just go up and out. So be careful, and also be mindful about possible cycle effect and so on.
Do you believe in the idea of a forever home? As in, when you buy your property, let's say I just got married, let's say, right? And then I buy my property, and with this view that this is going to be where I die also. Is that a good thing for?
I think for baby boomer generation X, I think that's what happened. I think that there's the first house, and there's a house where they retire, so they wanted to use a house as retirement net. So that's what we actually have to plan now, the retirement issue, the aging issue. But for Gen Z, it's quite different though. So I think there's aspiration to upgrade. I think Gen Z, even the millennials, I think they want a bigger house, a better house. So they actually should be more careful in upgrading and don't jump straight away to buy a bigger house and most expensive house. I think there's an aspiration to motivate, drive them to work harder. But I think it's nothing wrong. But just make sure that you plan carefully financially. Make sure it's not overstretched financially.
Ooh. Professor Ang, your recommendation for everyday Singaporeans to make.
I tell you, Michael, this is one question where I wish you had asked me earlier. The first one, because then it's easier to answer, right? Because my two colleagues have given all the best advice. I would be more longer. I would say have a longer term view. So think about not owning a car, take public transport, and we've got studies on how taking the bus or the MRT and so on, and with that increase the reduction in car ridership, right? Think about that. And also importantly, now with global warming, and there's a lot of heat waves throughout the world, think about how you can conserve. And we've got studies on that as well in our books on how you could save your electricity bill, your utilities bill, your water as well. And there are gadgets that you can buy, to help you to monitor your water consumption, for instance, or for air conditioning. I know it's so tough to do this, especially since we've had several days of very hot weather, but people can get so used to air conditioning comfort that even when they don't really need it, they continue to do so. So be mindful of this, because then you are really using your air conditioning unnecessarily because you have been so used to that comfort already. So be mindful of all these. These are small things to help you to save more and therefore to satisfy your retirement needs, as what Sumit said, and for your to be more prudent, right, in your expenses, as what Tien had alluded to.
Right. To be frank, it's the free aircon in the office that helps me overcome the everyday when I wake up, right, that
motivates you.
Yeah, it motivates me to go back to the office, right, knowing that there's free aircon there to be enjoyed and save some money.
So much for work from home, huh?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, just the wealth of information in vested in the three of you is so refreshing. I'm sure the viewers would find that too. Thank you so much, professors, for taking up for taking your time, your precious time, to be on this podcast and giving our viewers the insight into your research, how cultural norms can influence our financial decisions. And as Professor Ang right now is holding up, do check out the Kiasunomics books 1 and 2, and of course anticipate the publishing of the third book. Thank you so much, professors, and stay tuned for more. Look out for our next episode on As Good as Gold podcast. All opinions in this podcast should not be regarded as offering any financial advice. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified financial advisor regarding the suitability of any financial strategy, taking into account their specific financial objectives, situation, or particular needs before they act upon any recommendation. All opinions in this podcast should not be regarded as offering any financial advice. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified financial advisor regarding the suitability of any financial strategy, taking into account their specific financial objectives, situation, or particular needs before they act upon any recommendation. All opinions in this podcast should not be regarded as offering any financial advice. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified financial advisor regarding the suitability of any financial strategy, taking into account their specific financial objectives, situation, or particular needs before they act upon any recommendation.